My name is Mike Holmes. I am recording and performing under the alias The Devil in the Pale Moonlight. The song is called Find a Way.
Hello.
Hey.
What brings you here to the Batcave today?
Here promoting some of the songs from my new project called The Devil in the Pale Moonlight.
How'd you come up with that name?
Batman, Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson, that famous line, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" Fun fact about I believe it was the NES Batman, that harder hell Batman game. You remember where he had all the tools and the boomerang and the gun and all that stuff? It was just stupid hard. It was like Ninja Gaiden hard. They had, if you beat it, he says, "Now you dance with the devil in the pale moonlight," throws a Joker off a building. Spoiler. I should have said that first.
Yeah.
But I mean, the game's been out since the 80s, so come on. If you haven't beaten it, that's your own problem. But yeah, that's where I came up with it. No band's called that. I was really surprised about that. Time will catch up with you before you know.
Are your songs all inspired from like nerd stuff, or is it?
No, it's kind of, I do probably the opposite of the way a lot of people do it. I always hear like Paul McCartney always talks about he'd come up with a melody in his head and base it off that. I'm a big fan of cadences and chord structures, and so that's kind of where I go from. I start that and then I build. And when I'm recording, I kind of I'll write the song as I'm recording. And I think being my own producer and engineer and performer kind of helps with that, is because I'll hear pieces that are missing, because at the end of the day, I think my biggest thing is I love producing, whether it's myself or somebody else, or even if it's just like, hey, this needs to go here. So when I'm writing and recording like that on my own, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's just needs to go here. Problem with that is you don't have someone telling you, hey, that's not a good idea. So if I put it out there and it sucks, it's the way it is. But, at the end of the day, I did it all myself, so fuck them.
Have you actually gotten to produce any other bands in the studio? Or?
No, I was going to do that in school. That was my deal. And then I had a kid and got in a radio and stayed here. That was it. So, I mean, other than my own bands and being like, this is what needs to happen, no, not anybody else. I would like to, but time is a big factor. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Yeah. Find a way.
So do you consider yourself a nerd?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I got Spock tattooed on my arm. See?
Nice.
And Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone. And I got a Zelda tattoo, and I think it's the only other. Oh, Calvin and Hobbes.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes.
Okay, so
I guess that win. I guess the Spock gets me over the threshold a bit.
Okay, so with that being a big check mark for yes on nerd,
Mm-hmm.
Who is your favorite superhero?
That's a hard question. Jeez. Probably Batman. I mean, Batman, Spider-Man. Actually, I take that back. My favorite superhero isn't really a superhero, but I would have to say that it's Roland Deschain from The Dark Tower would be my favorite superhero. If you could count. Even now that Marvel's making those into comics, I would consider him a superhero. Because Roland, for The Dark Tower, the gunslinger, if you're not familiar with it, you should read that series. It's incredible. Stephen King's magnum opus. It's unbelievable. It's the best story I've ever read. I've got several tattoos for it. But he's probably my favorite. And it's because it's about someone that can pretty much do anything, but has to learn what's important to sacrifice. You know what I mean? And I think it's a very important thing. Batman does that too. You know what I mean? Several times he's had to figure out what's important to sacrifice and what's not for the end goal. Sometimes it's just better to let it go. And those guys never really understand that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because like with Batman, he has that line though, he won't cross.
Yeah. He won't, but his sacrifices to get to that point. You know what I mean? Sometimes, but that's the brilliant of our mythology. I mean, you ever think about like we look back on the Greek gods and Zeus and all those guys? Maybe that's what those were to them. They're
like
comic book.
Heroes,
they're comic book heroes because if you think about the mythos of all of these superheroes, 1,000 years from now, 2,000 years from now, they're doing an archaeological dig and they find a time capsule. Some kid put a Spider-Man comic in it, and be like, "Oh my God, these guys had superpowers! What the hell? He would have been their spider god or something." You know what I mean? It might be a long shot, but at the same time, I like to think that's kind of the same thing.
If we start now, we can make that happen.
Yeah, I know. 1,000 years from now.
Is there anything you want to shout out or say about anything upcoming, or?
Just working on this stuff. A few of my bands are doing stuff. Muzzle's got a new record. We're probably gonna record in the middle of late October. BDH is gonna do kind of one song at a time deal over the course of the next few months. I'm gonna keep working as this Devil in the Pale Moonlight. See how that takes me. If I can, do stuff like that. And I'm doing a Pink Floyd tribute in November. We're gonna do Dark Side and kind of like the hits and stuff with some Branson dudes and guys from Spin Rad, and that'll be kind of cool. Something I wanted to do for a long time. But yeah, it should be pretty cool. Guys from Nighthawks are gonna help too. Some of them, Toad and Todd.
Are you guys doing a ballroom or?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Upstairs. Yeah. November 8th. But yeah, it should be good. Yeah, it should be fun. Just constant. I play. I mean, that's all I do. Guys go home and play video games. Guys drink. Guys party. Guys sit there watch Game of Thrones. I play music. Sometimes I watch Forensic Files because I love true crime, True Detective.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.